On the inner wall of a granite box excavated from the underground galleries of the Serapeum at Saqqara, there's a mark. Not a crack, not a scratch, not a random chip. A spiral groove a fraction of a millimeter wide. The pitch of this spiral is constant. The depth is uniform along the entire length of the arc. It's the signature of a rotating tool with a fixed feed, a tubular drill or a circular saw. Such a mark couldn't be made by hand. It couldn't be made with an abrasive paste. It couldn't be made with anything from the official arsenal of the Fourth Dynasty. But it exists. It's documented. It's measured, and it remains silent, because no one asks it the right questions. The Academy calls the granite boxes of the Serapeum sarcophagi. The grooves on their walls are working marks, and that's where the conversation ends. Not because the answer has been found, because the question has been deemed irrelevant. But the furrow doesn't disappear just because people stop looking at it. It remains. And it's not the only one. 5,000 kilometers from Saqqara, on stone fragments dug up from the soil of the southern Urals and western Siberia, an identical pattern has been recorded. The same spiral, the same pitch, the same dead, inhuman uniformity of depth. Objects that official science has never placed next to each other, not in a single catalogue, not in a single monograph, not in a single footnote. Between them are deserts, mountain ranges, 4 climate zones, and a complete lack of acknowledged contacts. But the instrument that left these traces knew no boundaries. It worked the same way, whether on the banks of the Nile or deep in the continent, in a territory that old European maps designated with a single word, Tartary. One furrow is a coincidence. 2 identical furrows on opposite ends of the continent are a question worth asking before the stone falls silent completely. Copper has a hardness of 3 on the Mohs scale. Granite is 6 to 7. Diorite is 7. Quartzite is 7. Basalt is 6. This is not an interpretation, not a hypothesis, not a point of view. It is a table of the physical properties of minerals printed in any geology textbook anywhere in the world. A material with a hardness of 3 does not cut a material with a hardness of 7. It does not drill it. It does not grind it. It does not polish it. Upon contact, it deforms, crumples, and wears away. This is a law that allows for no exceptions. The tool must be harder than the rock being worked. The Academy knows this, and it offers a workaround. The copper chisel was not used alone, but in combination with abrasive sand. Sand is harder than granite, so it acted as the cutting element. Admittedly, but abrasive sand, moved by hand, works erratically. It leaves uneven marks. It's incapable of creating a plane with a tolerance of hundredths of a millimeter. It's incapable of cutting a spiral groove with a constant pitch. And it's certainly incapable of polishing the inner surface of a 70-ton granite box to an optical purity class, a class at which the reflection on the stone's surface is distortion-free. Between the tool, the official version suggests, and the result observed on the stone lies a chasm, not a philosophical one, but an engineering one. It can be measured. It can be expressed in microns, in surface purity classes, in flatness tolerances, and it's the same, whether on granite objects in the Nile Valley or on stone blocks excavated from Siberian soil in the territory of the former Tartary. The same gap between the stated cause and the observed result. The same chasm. The same silence in response to the question, what exactly was used to create it? Physics has no respect for chronology. It doesn't care to what dynasty an object is attributed or in what display case it sits. Copper doesn't cut granite in the 4th millennium BC, just as it doesn't cut it today. And if the result of the cutting exists, it means a tool capable of producing it existed. A tool that doesn't appear in any catalog, any museum, or any accepted version of the past. Beneath the sands of Saqqara, at a depth where daylight never penetrates, a network of subterranean galleries stretches. The ceilings are low, the corridors are narrow, the air is still, and in niches carved on either side of the main passage stand 24 granite boxes. Each, including the lid, weighs approximately 70 tons. They are hewn from solid blocks of Aswan granite, transported 900 kilometers down the Nile. Their interior surfaces are polished to a finish where the palm glides over the stone as if on glass. The angles are right angles, not approximately right, not by eye, right angles with a precision that would satisfy aerospace manufacturing tolerances. The lids are fitted to the boxes so tightly that not even a razor blade could fit through the gap. This is a seal that today is achieved by computer-controlled milling machines. The official version claims these are sarcophagi for sacred Apis bulls, ritual burials, a religious act. But none of the 24 boxes contained any remains, no bones, no organic traces, not the slightest sign that a body had ever been inside. Instead, there is polishing of the hidden surfaces, the ones that will never be seen after the lid is installed. Why polish something that is forever hidden from view? Ritual doesn't demand such precision. Religion doesn't demand airtightness. Symbolism doesn't demand tolerances of hundredths of a millimeter. Function demands it. A technical, measurable, concrete function which both the stone and those who describe it remain silent. And this is what turns the mystery into a system. The Serapeum is not unique. Stone containers with similar characteristics have been described at megalithic sites in southern Siberia. Finished interior walls, precise angles, traces of lid adjustments. They are partially covered with soil. There are no temples or necropolises nearby. That's why no one calls them sarcophagi. But the quality of craftsmanship is the same. The handwriting is the same, and the silence around them is the same. In Aswan, on the east bank of the Nile, in a granite quarry, lies an object that official science calls an unfinished obelisk. 1,200 tons of pink granite, partially separated from its parent rock. If the work had been completed, it would have been the largest monolith ever extracted by man. But the work was not finished. The official version explains the halt in the quarrying process by a crack discovered in the rock. It sounds logical, until you look at the crack itself. It runs transversely across the line of separation, not along it, but across it. It arose after the process stopped, not before. The rock cracked because it was no longer held under controlled tension, like a part clamped in a machine which deforms when the machine is turned off. The marks themselves are not impact marks. The walls of the groove do not have the characteristic cones of fracture left by a wedge or chisel. There are smooth, parallel grooves with melted edges, traces of thermal or vibrational impact. The rock didn't break away. It softened along the cut line. And then the process stopped. Not gradually, not because of a shortage of workers, not because of a change of pharaoh, but abruptly, mid-production, like a conveyor belt with a power outage. And this isn't the only case. At the opposite end of the continent, the same picture is repeated with frightening precision. The megaliths of Mountain Shoria are granite blocks, partially separated from the rock masses. The upper edges are worked, the lower ones are not. The process proceeded from top to bottom and then stopped. On the Kola Peninsula, there are stone slabs with perfectly smooth edges, half buried in the ground. In Altai, there are blocks with one polished side and the other rough, untouched. Everywhere, the same signature of cessation, not destruction, not abandonment, not slow decline. A break, instantaneous and simultaneous, from Aswan to Siberia, as if across the entire territory, which old maps named differently, but which functioned as a single whole, the source of energy suddenly disappeared, and all that remained were unfinished structures, frozen in the exact position in which the silence found them. There is one technical technique that cannot be faked, cannot be accidentally reproduced, and cannot be explained with primitive tools: polygonal masonry. Irregularly shaped stone blocks, each unique, not a single one alike, are fitted together without mortar, without binder, without a single millimeter of gap. The joint is so tight that a sewing needle cannot fit between the blocks. And these aren't just 2 blocks. There are hundreds, sometimes thousands, laid into walls, platforms, foundations. Each one fits with all its neighbors simultaneously, not along a single plane, but along several, at different angles, along curved surfaces. Try fitting 2 random stones together without a gap along a single plane. That's a challenge. Now imagine 1,000 stones, each touching 3, 4, 5 of their neighbors, and not a single gap anywhere. That's no longer a challenge. It's a technology whose principles are unknown to modern engineering. The base of the Great Pyramid, the Valley Temple at the foot of the Giza Plateau, the Osirian walls at Abydos. That's Egypt. But the same method, the same signature, the same impossible precision is found in Cusco, in the walls of Sacsayhuaman, in the terraces of Ollantaytambo. That's South America. Between them lies the Atlantic Ocean and a complete lack of recognized contact. And the same method is found at the megalithic sites of the southern Urals and western Siberia. Irregularly shaped blocks, laid without mortar, with tolerances that preclude manual adjustment. 3 continents, 1 technology, no explanation. Polygonal masonry cannot be copied by looking at a sample. The style can be borrowed, the proportions of columns, the ornamentation, the shape of an arch. But the precision of the joints, they cannot. To achieve this, one must either machine the blocks together with a precision of positioning unattainable without mechanized equipment, or soften the conting surface using a technology not found in any reference book, or apply a method whose very concept is absent from modern engineering vocabulary. 3 options. None are compatible with copper and ropes, and none of them explain how the same signature ended up carved in stone on 3 sides of the planet, unless the hand holding the instrument was alone. The Great Pyramid stands at 29.972 thousandths of a degree north latitude. The speed of light in a vacuum is 299,792,458 meters per second. The first 6 significant digits match. You could call this a coincidence and move on. But the coincidences don't end there. They're just beginning. The pyramid is oriented to true north with a deviation of 3/60ths of a degree. This is the precision a modern surveyor achieves with a laser theodolite and satellite georeferencing. The ratio of the perimeter of the base to twice the height yields PA. The ratio of the height to the semi-perimeter is the golden ratio. None of these parameters are mentioned in official construction explanations. They are present in the design, but absent from acceptable discourse about it. Now, the lines. If you draw a straight line from Giza northeast through Baalbek, you'll come to Archaim, a ring-shaped settlement in the southern Urals dating back to the 3rd to 2nd millennia BC. Archaim is oriented to the cardinal directions with the same precision as a pyramid. Its ring-shaped structure is inscribed in a circle, with proportions that repeat the same set of mathematical constants, the same vocabulary of angles, the same relationship of parts to the whole. If you continue the line further, northeast, through western Siberia, it passes through zones of concentrated megalithic objects, described in geological reports as natural formations. The distances between the nodes of this line are multiples of each other. Not approximately, not by any stretch. Mathematically, with an accuracy of up to a fraction of a percent. A trade route winds. It skirts mountains, follows rivers, seeks fords and passes. This is not a trade route. It is a straight line drawn along the surface of a sphere, taking into account its curvature. A geodesic line, a grid, and the grid presupposes the one who laid it out. Someone who saw the entire territory from the Mediterranean to Siberia, not as a collection of disparate tribes, but as a single space with a single coordinate system. Abraham Ortelius published his atlas in 1570. Gerardus Mercator published his in 1595. Willem Blaeu in the 1630s. Johann Hohmann in the early 1700s. 4 cartographers, 4 eras, 4 independent schools, and each of these maps bears the same designation: Grande Tartarie, Tartaria Magna, the territory from the Ural Mountains to the Pacific Ocean. Not a blank spot, not terra incognita. Cities, rivers, roads, provinces, borders are marked. Tobolsk, Tumen, Kashgar, Samarkand, names that exist to this day. But the context in which they are placed is different, completely different. This is not the outskirts of a foreign empire. This is an independent civilization with its own infrastructure, its own architecture, its own scale. Engravings accompanying European atlases and travelers' reports depict Tartary cities with domes, multi-tiered towers, arched structures, and spires crowned with metal caps. This is architecture impossible for the nomadic tribes with which official history populates this territory. And this architecture speaks the same formal language as the buildings of Cairo, Alexandria, and Istanbul. The same domes, the same proportions, the same principle of vertical dominance with metal at the apex. And then, at the turn of the 18th and 19th centuries, Tartary disappears, not from the face of the earth, from paper. Maps are redrawn. The territory is divided between the Russian Empire, China, and Mongolia. The cities receive new owners and a new history. The architecture is declared a late imitation or an Oriental influence. The word Tartary is erased from the geographical dictionary, quietly, without announcement, without explanation. It's as if someone carefully peeled back a layer of an ancient palimpsest and wrote their own text over it, a text in which this civilization never existed. But maps are stubborn witnesses. They can be removed from circulation, but they cannot be forced to lie retroactively. The ink has dried, the paper remains, and on it, to this day, is written what was ordered forgotten. An Egyptian obelisk is not a monument. It is a monolithic granite rod hewn from a single rock, set vertically on a limestone base and crowned with a pyramidion, a finial covered in electrum, a natural alloy of gold and silver. Its official function is a solar symbol, an object of worship, a ritual focal point. But if we remove the words and leave only the materials, the picture changes radically. Electrum is an excellent electrical conductor. Granite contains up to 30% quartz, a mineral with pronounced piezoelectric properties capable of generating an electric charge under mechanical compression or vibration. The limestone on which the obelisk stands is a natural dielectric, an insulator. Beneath the foundation are underground watercourses, a natural source of constant low-frequency vibration and electrochemical activity. The conductor is at the top. The piezoelectric is in the body. The insulator is at the base. The oscillator is below. This is not a description of a cult object. This is a fundamental electrical diagram, dispersed vertically, executed in stone and metal, disguised by millennia of misunderstanding as square decoration. Now, a look to the east. The towers and minarets, depicted in engravings of Tartary cities and partially preserved to this day, display the same morphology: a tapering stone or brick shaft, a metal cap at the top, a massive base of dense stone. The domes of mosques and cathedrals are not decorative elements, but resonant chambers whose geometry is optimal for amplifying and redirecting acoustic and electromagnetic vibrations. Spires are not symbols of aspiration to the sky, but antennas. Metal crosses and crescents at the tops are not signs of faith, but contact groups, points of energy collection or transmission. The same diagram, from the Nile to the Ob. The same logic of form, the same sequence of materials, the same vertical architecture with metal at the tip. Not a style borrowed through trade, not a fashion spread through conquest. A project, a unified network designed for a single function, a function that was later called ornament because they forgot how to read a diagram. In the old neighborhoods of European and Asian cities, there's a detail that everyone sees, but almost no one notices. Windows that disappear into the ground, doorways that rest against the earth, arches half-filled, ground floors that have become cellars, entrances reached by steps, even though the building's architecture clearly indicates that these entrances were once at street level. The official explanation is the cultural layer, the natural accumulation of soil over centuries of urban life. Dust, garbage, sediment, construction waste, centimeter by centimeter, century after century. Sounds reasonable until you start measuring. The cultural layer accumulates unevenly. It's thicker near the walls, thinner in open spaces, and almost absent on windy hillsides. But here, entire neighborhoods are uniformly buried by 1, 2, sometimes 3 stories, the same depth, the same type of backfill, as if the city were covered by something all at once, not over centuries, but over months or days. Tobolsk, Kazan, Irkutsk, Omsk, buildings with semi-basement windows that were once first-floor windows. Excavations are revealing masonry extending 2 to 3 meters below current ground level. Entire floors, living quarters, finished and with openings, are buried. Now, Egypt. the Osirion at Abydos, a structure of megalithic blocks standing significantly lower than the surrounding buildings. Its walls are composed of a stone completely different from the later masonry of the Temple of Seti I, erected directly above it. It is as if the Osirion was filled in and the temple built on top, with no understanding of what lies beneath. The Luxor temple has been excavated from beneath meters of sediment. The Sphinx bears traces of water erosion, possible only during a period of heavy rainfall, which ended thousands of years before its official dating. Different names, different alphabets on the tablets, but the burial depth is the same. The nature of the backfill is the same, and the silence surrounding the causes is absolutely the same. Something has covered these cities on both sides of the map, and no one has yet explained what exactly. Erasure doesn't require a conspiracy. A conspiracy is coordination, secrecy, effort. Erasure is simpler. It operates on inertia. The academic system of knowledge is structured so that every new question must fit within the framework of an existing answer. If the question doesn't fit, it's not the answer that is discarded. The question is discarded. The granite box in the Serapeum is called a sarcophagus. Why? Because it stands in a tomb. And why is it a tomb? Because it contains sarcophagi. The circle is closed, a tautology that needs no proof because it is its own proof. Within this circle, one can defend a dissertation, receive a grant, publish a monograph. Outside it, one can only remain silent. The megaliths of Siberia are called natural formations. Why? Because no civilization capable of processing stone with such precision existed in Siberia. And why not? Because no monuments have been found confirming its presence. And the megaliths? Natural formations, the same closed loop, the same self-perpetuating logic, the same result, an object excluded from consideration not because it has been studied and deemed insignificant, but because no acceptable framework for its study exists. Tartary did not disappear under the blows of armies. It vanished more quietly. From the dictionary, the word was removed from use, maps were redrew, the territory was renamed, and reality obediently adapted, not because someone ordered it, because no one asked. This is passive erasure, not an action, the absence of action, not a lie, the absence of a question, not censorship in the usual sense, but something more effective, a state in which the censored is unaware that they have anything to say. The stone underfoot continues to bear the marks of its processing. The furrows do not disappear. The tolerances do not change. The masonry does not lose its precision. But if no one asks what this means, the stone remains just a stone, silent, heavy, and utterly invisible. Each of these facts, taken individually, can be rejected. A furrow is a coincidence. The hardness of copper is irrelevant because it was abrasive. A serapeum is a ritual structure. An unfinished obelisk is a manufacturing defect. Polygonal masonry is the skill of generations. A coordinate grid is a numerical adjustment. Maps of Tartary are outdated nomenclature. Electrical architecture is fantasy. Filled floors are a cultural layer. Individually, each element has an explanation, a convenient, familiar one that doesn't require revising textbooks. But individually, these facts are never considered together. This is the technique, disunity. Furrows are studied by one specialist, the hardness of minerals by another, cartography by a third, architecture by a fourth. No one is obliged to put the whole picture together, and no one does. And if you put it together, chance ends. A system begins. Identical traces of mechanical processing on the granite of Aswan and the stone of Mountain Shoria. The same polygonal masonry without mortar. Giza, Cusco, the southern Urals. The same geodetic grid linking the Great Pyramid, Archaim, and the megalithic zones of western Siberia. The same vertical architecture with a conductor at the top and an insulator at the base, from the obelisks of the Nile Valley to the towers depicted in engravings of Tartary cities. The same picture of a sudden interruption of work, from Aswan to the Kola Peninsula. The same burial depth, from Osirian to Tobolsk, and the same mechanics of oblivion, the replacement of technology with ritual, industry with ceremony, civilization with a blank space on the map. 7 lines, each drawn between objects that official science has never placed next to each other, and each line points to the same point, where, instead of 2 separate stories, a single drawing is discovered. 1 scale, 1 toolkit, 1 coordinate system, a single project operating across the entire Eurasian continent, not the influence of one culture on another, not trade, not migration, not random convergence, a single hand, a single design, and a single moment when everything stopped. Scattered across the planet's surface are objects that defy any accepted chronology. They stand on the same coordinate grid. They were crafted with the same tools. They were built using the same blueprint. They were buried under the same layer of soil. They were forgotten using the same method. And they are silent. Silent, but not empty. Granite contains quartz. Quartz has piezoelectric properties. It responds to vibration with an electrical signal. Groundwater continues to flow beneath the foundations. Limestone continues to insulate. The structure is not destroyed. It is open, like an electrical circuit from which one element has been removed. Everything is in place. Conductors, resonators, insulators, oscillators. One link is missing, and no one remembers which one. The metal caps were long ago removed, melted down for coins, buttons, and cannon barrels. The domes are stripped of their coverings. The spires are shortened. Obelisks are taken from Egypt and erected in the squares of foreign capitals like trophies, without the slightest understanding of the chain they were part of. The element is removed. The circuit is broken. The scheme is dead. But the stone remains, and the furrows on it, too precise for myth, too deep for chance, too identical at both ends of the continent for coincidence, continue to bear the signature of something that once worked, something that spanned the space from the Mediterranean to the Pacific Ocean, something that had a function, not symbolic, not ritual, not decorative. Engineering. Humanity lives on the surface of a microprocessor and calls paths paths. It builds houses on contact pads and calls them wastelands. It composes legends about builders and calls it history. And somewhere beneath the stone, deep at the very threshold of hearing, a hum is still discernible, too low for the ear, too constant for chance, too uniform for a natural phenomenon, as if the machine hadn't stopped completely, as if the chain were waiting, patiently, without a trace of time, for the missing element to be returned. But no one hears, because no one listens.